But deep fears, that's not gut. And people will always tell you, trust your instinct. But no, that's when they're right in that moment, it's not because of instinct, it's because of evidence.
Yeah.
So say, for example, I said, I've got a feeling something's on his phone. Let me check it. That wasn't my gut. It's because he was being dodgy with his phone for a while.
Yeah.
It was evidence-based. And that's
People
where
get
they get it
right?
confused. But there's so many times where you have this feeling, oh God, I bet he's doing this, that and the other. And then you call the person and he's just sitting there like, I don't know, just chilling. Yeah. And you feel a bit bad because in your head you're like, I already plotted your murder and I already thought I'm going to kill you, and I see, but you've done nothing wrong. So I would definitely say don't trust your gut. I think that's one of the worst advice that we have normalized, but it's
I was going to say it's very, very normalized.
Very normalized, and because you pick up on the one time your gut was right, but it wasn't your gut, it was evidence that spoke to you.
Yeah.
So I would never say trust your gut. Your gut is all your anxieties, fears and phobias rolled into one and projected onto others.
Would you say women get more attached or have more of an anxious attachment than men do?
Unfortunately not. It's just that we are more able to express it like that. So when men express it, it can turn into violence, and it can turn into domestic violence. And so it's labeled as you're violent and this, that and the other, but because they don't know how to articulate themselves as much. So men, once they get frustrated, 1-2 words and then it's throw hands. But with women, we can articulate our words, and also we're really good at investigating and finding. They're not good at that, so they don't know what to do. So they break things and do things, but it's expressed differently. And it's one of the reasons I always say people who commit domestic violence, that I'm absolutely a big, really, really hate the idea of domestic violence, but we have to treat the perpetrator as well, because they don't want to be violent. And
there's a reason.
There's like
it's almost
trauma.
a background reason.
And I don't think you should ever accept an abusive partner. I think you should definitely leave. But a part of, before you leave, you should also be curious, how do I help this person? They can't want to be like this. Some people make it really difficult to help them, but there's been a problem and we have to resolve it rather than just punishment. And there's so much support for the victims, as it should be, but there needs to be equal support for the people who do it, because that's also a disease. It's like an illness, it's an emotional illness, and we have to fix it. They need help, but they really need help. Jail, obviously, they need to do, but they also need help.
Would you say there's a difference between love and attachment?
Absolutely.
There is.
And this is what the difference is. Attachment is when you attach to whoever's familiar to you based on your childhood. So if you grew up with abusive parents, you'll attach to an abusive partner. If you grew up with parents that are really critical and mean to you, you'll attach to somebody who's critical and mean to you. And nice guys will feel weird. You'll be like, oh, why are you complimenting me? Why are you nice to me? I don't like that. So you attach to what's familiar. And so if your home life was hostile and a roller coaster, you'll meet a partner that takes you on a roller coaster, and you'll think, I'm in love, but you're not. You're attached because that's your childhood attachment being reincarnated in a future relationship. Love feels safe. Love feels peaceful. Love is when I don't need to worry, this person's got me and I've got them and we're going to be fine. I don't need to check my phone all the time and he doesn't need to. I feel safe in his presence. I feel at peace. That feels unfamiliar to people who grew up in hostile environments, and they label it as boring and they push it away. But with people who grew up in hostile environments, they attach to the wrong people, unfortunately. So attachment and love, if you feel like you're in a chaotic relationship and you're like, but I can't let them go, I must be madly in love. No, you're madly attached.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference. Love is so peaceful.
Yeah.
No,
I think that's very good for people to know, to be fair.
Yeah, bear that in mind.
Very
I'm proud of myself with that comment, actually. I don't know. I mean, I don't follow my own advice, but that's how it should be.
Another thing I find with this generation is like, I keep referring back to TikTok because
but that is your generation.
I see it a lot on my For You page. I see a lot of things coming up with like being toxic.
About
and people
glamorizing it.
Yeah, glamorizing it. Yeah. People thinking it's funny, like it's this is so toxic, it's going to be so funny. Like, do you know what I mean?
I always be like, I'm so toxic. Guess what I did today?
Yeah. And it's just like, no, this is not it. Like, what are your views on toxicity? Because surely this should not be the generation.
It's all fun and games until you get to an age where your toxicity has left you really lonely.
Yeah, that's deep. That was deep.
Yeah, it's all fun and games when you're 21, 22 years old. But there's going to get to an age where all your friends are married, they're all with kids because they weren't toxic, and or on the weekends they take their kids to parks and stuff like that, and you're sat there and you are thinking, where did my toxicity get me? And you'll get to another age where all what you did in your life means nothing, because the only question someone will ask you is how are your kids? And how's your partner? And if you have neither of those, you learn that your toxicity did you no service whatsoever. So it's all fun and games until life gets real.
Wow.
Until life starts
That
lifing.
was really good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did a video on dating apps, and I personally have never ever had a dating app.
Yeah.
But I know you have a particular view on dating apps, and I know a lot of people who have had success stories with dating apps. Actually, I don't know a lot of people personally.
Yeah,
I've seen
we've all seen it. Yeah.
But you've actually said that people should delete dating apps.
Absolutely.
And I want to know, like, why? Like, what is this thing with dating apps?
I'm really against dating apps.
Okay.
I really am against them. And the reason why I'm against them is because it feeds the idea that there's so many fish in the sea. Okay. And the moment you think that there are so many alternatives and options, you invest less in whatever you have. That's just life. Yeah, if I have lots of cars, I won't care about one car. You know, if I have lots of things in the fridge, things end up going moldy because I forget about the things that I've got so much there. And the moment you train your brain into thinking that there are so many alternatives to whoever you're talking to and whoever you're with, when you've trained your brain to that way, even if you don't leave your partner, your subconscious will let you think that you can talk to them a certain way, act a certain way, because if worse comes to worse, I'll move on. And I think that's what's the reason why divorce is so common. I think that's the reason why relationships have fallen apart, and I think that's the main reason why relationships in our grandparents' generations worked. There was no alternatives. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. It's almost like social media has basically ruined relationships. It ruins it because, like, back when, you know, parents and grandparents were together, they're not divorced.
There's no options.
There was
who
no
are you
other
going to cheat with? You never send a letter with, like, to who? So it's and the thing is, it doesn't mean that they were unhappy. The less options, the happier you are, because you're not comparing anything. So people always think, yeah, but they were really unhappy.